For the first few years, our marriage felt like sunlight after long winter. Warm, familiar, and full of life. We were best friends, lovers, partners in every sense. Our evenings were filled with conversation and laughter. And even when arguments found a way between us, we always ended the night curl close, skin to skin, soul to soul. There was a rhythm to us, something unspoken yet deeply understood. It was home. Then, like a slow drift of fog, something shifted. At first, it was nothing, just a soft yawn at bedtime and a gentle, "Not tonight, I'm tired." I didn't take it personally. We were both worn thin by the demands of work, bills, and a kind of daily chaos that doesn't wait for permission to weigh you down. But as weeks turned into months, those words became a quiet refrain. "I'm just tired." Every night, still I tried. I tried to bring back the laughter, made sure the dishes were done before she got home, folded laundry while she rested, gave her time to breathe. I thought if I carried a little more of the burden, maybe she'd find room again for me, for us, but she didn't. My hand would find hers, only to feel it gently pull away. I'd lean in for a goodnight kiss, and her face would turn just enough to miss me. It stung at first like a wound I couldn't see, but felt everywhere. And then I started telling myself it was fine. I trained myself to stop reaching for her, stopped hoping she'd reach for me. It hurt less that way. We still shared a house, still sat down to dinner, still texted reminders about errands. But there was a silence between us now. Quiet, civil, devastating, like a cracking glass that no one dares press on. I remember the night I stayed on the couch and let her go to bed alone. She'd said she was tired again. And this time, I didn't even look up from the screen. That was the first time I didn't follow her. The next night, I didn't either. Eventually, it became permanent. Not because of fight, but because it was easier than being reminded of how far we drifted. I told myself it was temporary, that she'd noticed the absence, missed my presence, asked me what was wrong. But she didn't. We became polite strangers, trading logistics instead of laughter. Each night, she went to bed early. Each night, I stayed behind with the television and the weight in my chest. Then one night, as I turned off the TV, she stood in the doorway with tired eyes and asked, "Why don't you come to bed anymore?" I turned to her, unsure whether to laugh at the absurdity or cry at the ache. "Because you were always tired," I said quietly. She stared at me like she didn't understand at first. Then something flickered in her eyes. A shift, a realization, and she didn't say a word. After that, something in her changed. For a few days she tried. She asked about my day again, brushed her fingers across my back in passing, lingered a little longer in the kitchen. When I was there, I noticed, of course, but I was afraid to hope. Then one night, she came out in those soft old pajamas I used to love. She curled beside me on the couch and whispered, "I miss us." I turned toward her and really looked. She was still so beautiful, still the woman I chose. But inside me, there was a hollow ache, a quiet place filled with all the nights I'd reached for her and been left alone. I missed us too, I said for a long time, but eventually I stopped missing. I just adjusted. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't reach to wipe them away. We sat there in a hush of our brokenness, surrounded by the ghosts of what we used to be. She tried harder after that. Date nights, little notes on the fridge, soft touches. She even suggested counseling. I agreed, though partly remained guarded, too wounded to lean in fully. At one session, she broke down and said she hadn't realized how far we'd fallen. Until the day I stopped trying.
I
Thought you'd always be there, she admitted through tears. The therapist turned to me and asked how it felt to hear that. Invisible, I replied, my voice quiet but firm. She cried again, and this time I took her hand.
not
Because everything was suddenly healed, but because somewhere beneath the fatigue and resentment I still loved her. But love, I had learned, cannot be carried by one person alone. It has to be chosen again and again by both. So we worked at it slowly, painfully. There were no grand gestures, no sudden miracles, just the steady work of two people trying to find each other again. In the ruins of what they used to be. Some nights she still said she was tired, but now she added softly, but I still want to hold you. And somehow that made all the difference. Rebuilding was not romantic. It was not like the movies. There were awkward conversations and exhausted compromises. There were mornings where neither of us knew what to say and nights where we reached for each other out of habit more than
desire.
but we kept showing up even when it hurt, especially then, nearly a year later, as we sat across from each other. At dinner, she reached for my hand and said, "Thank you for giving me another chance." I didn't smile because everything was perfect. I smiled because, for the first time in a long time, it felt honest. "Thank you for noticing." Before it was too late, I whispered back. There was still work to do. There always would be. Love, we realized, was not a finish line. It was a daily decision. But we weren't tired anymore. Not in the way that made us turn away. We were tired of silence, tired of attending, tired of drifting so far we almost couldn't return. And from that weariness, something new began. Something quieter than fireworks, but just as powerful.